Thank you. And once again, good morning. Welcome to Interfaith Spiritual Center Worldwide, where we know that nothing happens by chance, that everything is a divine appointment. This is why I love our way of life, is that every day we recreate our experience and we co-create with our Creator. So this theme for the month has been the Evolution Revolution, founded by Neil Donald Walsh, who also created Humanity's Team. And if you go online and you just Google in Humanity's Team and the Evolution Revolution, and there's a Oneness declaration that you can sign. And the 1,000 Words That Changed the World by Neil Donald Walsh is just fascinating. I took bits and pieces out of it that are so relative to what we go through on a daily basis. And people look at him and he's a New York Times bestseller, and he is quite wealthy and doing very, very well, and some people think, well, what does he know? What has he been through? But he has been through a lot. And when he moved to Oregon, I received a call from him, and he was homeless. He was living in a tent in the park. He did this for 1 year. He said it's really interesting the way that people look at you when you're homeless. There's like those that glaze over, they don't see you, those that run the other way, those that will sit down and pray with you or speak with you. And during that time of being homeless and living in a tent in the park, he had this revelation, and he called it Conversations with God. And he wrote the whole thing out by hand. It took him the whole year. He was homeless for a little over a year. He took it to Time Warner Publishers. And he heard back from them, and he went in. And he went in with someone that could support him. And they said, "We love it. We love it." And they handed him a check for $1 million to go homeless to being handed a check for your work. Conversations with God, rather esoteric on the face of it. From night to day, in the twinkling of an eye, everything can change. So when he came up with Humanity's Team and wanting to do something for the planet, when we make it in life, it's time to give something back. I love when Sharron Stone, which, believe it or not, some people call me, it is Stroud, but I always say thank you if they say Stone. And she said, to have this much money and make this much money and not do something good with it is vulgar. So when we are conscious energetically that it's time, we've made it, we've healed our own issues, it's just time to give something back. And when we give something back, we know what? The same opening that we give through is the same opening that we receive through. So on that the very first declaration on the 1,000 Words That Changed the World is that we are all one. And I say this every Sunday, regardless of color, race, creed, or sexual orientation and political affiliation, we are all one energetically. And that regardless of the color, the race, the creed, that there is a golden thread that links us to humanity, to our brothers and sisters. And that we may not always agree, and of course we can agree to disagree, but I respect your right and your choices to do what works for you. And in the 1,000 Words That Changed the World, he said there's no wrongdoing or right doing. Rumi said it. There's a field and I'll meet you there. Instead of thinking what's right, what's wrong, what works and what doesn't work. Much, much better, right? What works? Let's build on what works. And what doesn't work, we can just let that go and release it, return it to its native nothingness from whence it came. So when we get into a mentality, and the greatest invitation in the world, and he puts us out there, that greatest invitation in the world is to suddenly move beyond yours and mine, victim, villain mentality, to win-win, ours. That we share our humanity. We share our planet. And wherever I have been in the world, people are wonderful. And I love what Mother Teresa said. I saw a man today who didn't have a smile, so I gave him one of mine. That there is always something we can give to forward and advance humanity. And when we get into wrong and right, making people wrong, instead of, that just really doesn't work. It doesn't get the results that we want. So we begin to make a shift in our consciousness. And, we have a friend, and that's the editorial we, and she is so brilliant, and she is so amazing, and she is so articulate, but doesn't use these principles, and is at the effect of life, the victim of life, and becomes narcissistic about what's going on in her life. And I have been treating for her and just doing spiritual treatments and sending the energy because I know how enlightened she is. And so I know that this mentality doesn't serve her. Yet, I don't say anything. I just, I have a friend that does say a few things to her, thank God. But I don't. I just send her energy. And I saw her recently and I saw a major shift in her consciousness. And it felt so good. And it felt so good to see the upliftment there. And that on a daily basis, we're having all kinds of experiences, aren't we? I love the Zen story where there was a great, amazing swordsman in ancient Japan. And what do we call those swordsmen? Samurais, thank you. He knows everything, I love Lee. And he was a great samurai warrior. And he heard about this master that knew everything. And he wanted to go and learn from him. Well, that, to surrender, to learn and to grow, there is a certain surrendering process. So he found the great master, he made the journey, and he walked in all his glory and all, his samurai attire, and found the master, and the master said, "What is your question?" He said, "I want to know the secret of life. I want to know the difference between heaven and hell." And the master said, "You, a great samurai warrior, who the whole planet is paying homage to, you want to know the difference between heaven and hell? You don't even know the difference between heaven and hell?" And with that, his anger just bubbled up, and he took out his sword, and he began to strike. Stopped himself. And the master said, "That's hell." And he fell to his knees and he wept and said, "Forgive me, forgive me." And the master said, "That's heaven." So we know that joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God. And that in the 1,000 Words That Changed the World by Neil Donald Walsh, he states that we don't have to compete for anything. We have enough resources. But our consciousness gets into the fact that we don't have enough. We don't have enough time, we don't have enough energy, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough. Which creates more of a consciousness of lack, limitation, and scarcity. And the more we give, and I mean give unconditionally, not keeping score. And I mean to anyone you've ever given to and you think, oh, after all I've done for them, especially parents, we can really get into that. After all I've done for them, this is the thanks I get. No, we give it unconditionally. We breathe like the lily breathes its fragrance into space, because that's just what the lily does. We breathe the energy. We give because there's such a joy in giving. And when we are so very much aware that we do not worship a vengeful God sitting on a throne with a long white beard, with a little black book keeping score. Our God is an all-inclusive God of love. Our God is an all-inclusive God of beauty, truth, wisdom that lives and moves and has its being at the center of our one glorious, passionate life. And when we understand that God is energy and that everyone that comes within our energy field is part of that energy. That's why when we say namaste and we salute the God within one another, we're saluting that place. And I remember one time in our service, this little old lady said, "Why can't she speak English?" And I said, "Because there's no," she said, "No, I have pretty good ears." I said, "Because there's no word in the English language that means the divinity within me salutes the divinity within you, and the divinity within you salutes the divinity within me. And if I am in that place in me and you are in that place in you, there truly is only one of us beyond color, race, creed, sexual orientation, and political affiliation. We are all one. We got to drop all of that. And if ever you've seen those beautiful pictures of Jesus, and he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, his hands are in a prayerful position, and he's kneeling. And in all of the old Renaissance beautiful paintings when I was in Florence, you would see everyone was kneeling because the knees represent surrender. Where I of myself can do nothing, but there's a power and a presence in the universe greater than I am, and it flows through me. I tap into it. I of myself can do nothing. And believe me, we've tried, and we're going to do it till it kills us. And it almost does. But when we let go and let God do what God does best by means of us, and we kneel, in other words, we recognize that these knees represent total and complete surrender. And I used to have, when I would do my spiritual treatments at the beginning of the service, I used to actually have someone in the front row, and she would go on her knees and she would just open her arms and her eyes would be closed, and I thought, how beautiful to acknowledge Earth Mother, Sky Father, Grandfather, Sun, Grandmother Moon, and the energy of the universe that's flowing through us. So when we get it, I of myself can do nothing. I'm surrendered to life. It is the power and the presence that flows through me that does the work. And Jesus was very clear about that. What did he say? The works that I do, you shall do also, and even greater works ye shall do than I do. Don't worship me, don't call me good, there's only one good. That is God that lives and moves and has its being at the center of our one life. And Lord Buddha was very clear about opening to a heart of compassion and to be non-attached to the things of this world. Be ye transformed by the renewing of our mind. So when we look at the evolution revolution and the 1,000 words that change the world, that can change the world, we are looking at a gospel of peace. We are looking at the civil rights of the soul. And the civil rights of the soul is that we are all one. And in this oneness do we live. In this oneness do we move. In this oneness do we have our being. And in this beingness, we recognize that heaven is a state of consciousness. Hell is a state of consciousness. When we get angry and we want to strike out, that's hell. When we get it in a spirit of love and forgiveness, that's heaven. Joy being the most infallible sign of the presence of God. And when I'm not joyous, I know I'm in my ego. It's like no matter how justified we are, and we all, can kind of get this way. I had paid a bill to my doctor, and I go to Loma Linda University Hospital, and I had a surgery there 5 years ago, and so I feel comfortable going there. And so I also go to the dental. And so this medical bill went over to dental. And I called and I said it was paid on April 4th, so please check with dental because it was cash, and I'm looking at it online, bill pay, and it's endorsed. She goes, okay, will do. Next thing I know, I get a letter from a collection agency saying, this $60.93 is due. So I call the dental and I ask if it's been sent over there. I take the initiative, not them. And she says, yes, it was sent over here. And I said, well, send it back over to medical for the checkup I had last March. She said, well, we really can't do that. We have to, send you the check and blah, blah, blah. So I call back over to medical and I tell them what happened, and I'm still getting these calls from this collection agency, and I tell her the whole story. And she said, well, we really can't credit you because, it went over to the wrong party, blah, blah, blah. So I call back to the medical. By this time, I jumped through every hoop. I am frustrated. I am not feeling spiritual. I am feeling just totally pissed off. So I go, so Jennifer answers. And I said, okay, I'm going to tell the story one more time. So I tell her, and she says, oh, Dr. Sharron, we're so sorry that happened. Honey, don't mail it. Then the bill pay person told me to mail it to a file number in LA with no street address. So she laughed at that, said, just send it here, put it in care of Jennifer. I'll call the collection agency, I'll call the dogs off, and all is well. I'll get it all handled for you. And I said, oh, thank you so much. I am in such gratitude. You don't know the hoops I've jumped through. She goes, well, you kind of told me, I got the idea that you did jump through hoops. And so I could just let it go and breathe through it. And it's just not, I want you to know, not the crises that get us in life. We rise to the occasion for the crises. We're like there and we're courageous. It's the everyday little stuff that we can give our power away to. And then Jennifer answers, and she's full of light and joy. We create someone wonderful that's going to get the job done, who understands, going to call the dogs off. And we're back in our oneness mode. So when we have these moments, and we acknowledge that we have these moments, and anyone who doesn't, you come up and you get to talk from now on, right? We're all part of the human condition, and we're all going to react at times. But isn't it wonderful, in the twinkling of an eye, we also create the Jennifers in life that are going to heal the situation, get the job done, call off the dogs. Because we're all one. And we're doing what works and what doesn't work. And we're recognizing hell as a state of consciousness the minute we get angry. And heaven is a state of consciousness the moment we get it. Feel the gratitude, the love, and the forgiveness. Because we know the angels, the archangels, and all the light beings are here with us, and all the unseen guides, and everyone that we've ever loved. On July 11th was my late husband Neil Stroud's anniversary of transcending the planet. And I always do like a little altar, and I find some roses that I can put in a body of water and feel his energy and commune with him and feel him working for me on the other side. The veil is very thin. Death is not extinguishing the light. It's turning off the lamp because dawn has come. And in the 1,000 words that changed the world, Neil says, there is no death. There is only a re-identification. I love that. Thank you, Neil. You've grown, you're amazing. I want you to know I've always loved you. And that as we gather together for the evolution, revolution, I resolve to what? Evolve. Because I am in a high place and I will not come down. None of these outer things move me. Where are we going? Higher yet. Where? Higher yet. Where? Higher yet. And so it is. I say namaste. The God in me salutes the God in you. Shalom, the peace that passes all understanding. And God blesses everyone. And so it is. I love you. And thank you for being with me here today. And thank you, our viewing audience, for tuning in and adding your love and energy. And so it is.